So welcome back to the channel, and today we are talking about some of the Met Gala looks. I will be dividing these reviews into parts because there are so many looks to go through, as most of you know. So I'm just going to pick some favorites in this first part, and then let me know if you want to see a part 2 and a part 3. So there was a lot of confusion around the theme of the Met Gala because there's a difference between the Met Gala theme, which is the Garden of Time, and then the actual Met exhibition, which is Sleeping Beauty's Reawakening Fashion. Now, the theme Garden of Time is actually inspired by J.G. Ballard's book, which actually bears the same name. It follows the story of a Count Axel and his wife who, live this really fancy life. They listen to Mozart and they live in this huge villa surrounded by flowers that are made of crystals all around. And so there's an angry army that's advancing towards this amazing property. And these crystals, what they can do is, as they remove these crystals one by one, it turns back time until they run out of crystals. So they're almost saving time, but whatever's going to happen is still inevitable. It's just about how long it takes. And so it's very interesting because I was thinking that there were many different ways to interpret this theme. It's very, very broad compared to past themes. I mean, when you think of gardens, there are the obvious things like plants, trees, leaves, flowers, florals, all that sort of stuff. But gardens can be more than just florals and flowers. There are things like, maybe if you want to do something really, really deep, and you could be like, well, a concrete jungle is a form of a jungle which you can put back into a park. Or you could look at different materials, let's say things like wood. I thought maybe you might see just things crafted of wood because obviously wood, trees, and all that sort of stuff. So there are many ways you can go. You can look at insects, you can look at different animals that might end up in your garden, whether it's birds that chirp in the morning and different things like that. So I thought it was really broad. When you think of time, there's so many aspects to it. So I just thought, okay, there's so much to work with. But then a lot of people just ended up doing the obvious thing, which is just floral and floral prints and floral embroideries and things like that. So the first dress I want to talk about is Tyla. I honestly think Tyla ruled the Met Gala. I think that her look was honestly one of the best looks, which is actually quite crazy because it's her first Met Gala and she's already taking over. I think Tyla recently has been going from strength to strength. So she's wearing this sand textured dress by Ballard. It has very interesting details too. You can see some sand on her forearm, you can see some sand on her shoulder. I find that a really interesting touch. Also, she's holding what I know to be a sand timer, but there's a compartment where she can hold it. Everyone keeps calling this a sandbag or something. I don't know why people call it a bag. It literally just reminds me of the sand timers that we used to use when I was in secondary school, where if you've been naughty or something, where they just turn it over so you know how long your punishment is. And we had different sand timers, the 15-minute ones, the 30-minute ones, the 1-hour ones, the 1-minute ones. So yeah, it's still a sand timer. It's not necessarily a bag. But yeah, I guess a lot of people, because she can hold it, I guess people associate it with a bag. Even if Ballard calls it a bag, it's still not a bag. But I find this dress really, really fascinating for the texture. I want to know how sturdy the dress is. Of course, there are all these videos where they had to lift every part of the dress up, and they even had to lift Tyla up the stairs because she couldn't really move in that dress, which I love. I love the commitment to the cause. I really love it. It's really what the Met Gala is about at the end of the day. But yeah, with Tyla's look, I'm really just hoping that they do one of those recap videos on YouTube or their Instagram where they actually show us the process of how they made these garments. Because honestly, I'm quite fascinated to see how exactly they constructed it and kind of how it works, how the fabric works. Is it very fragile? Like, how good is it? So that will be very, very fascinating. The next looks are by Zendaya. Of course, Zendaya is very famous. She's damn near one of the biggest fashion icons in the world at this point. Her and her stylist, Law Roach, have almost become this dynamic duo that can do no wrong and always get all the right looks. So she wore 2 looks to the Met Gala. She opened and then she closed. So the first look she wore is this Margiela gown that is actually inspired by John Galliano's Dior Spring Summer 1999 couture collection. So it's very interesting that John Galliano is referencing himself from when he was at Dior and sort of transforming and slightly tweaking that dress for it to fit and suit the theme of the Met Gala this year for Zendaya, I thought that was really interesting. It's kind of like a low-key flex, sort of like, I'm going to reference myself because I can type of thing. And he even did that with the second look, which we'll get to. Very interesting look. What I do love about both looks is the attention to detail when it comes to the headpieces, because a lot of people didn't have any headpieces or had no focus on headpieces. So I really love this idea of really looking at every element of a look, whether it's accessories, it's the headpieces, it's the dress, it's the shoes. So I really, really love that aspect. Of course, the headwear and the back of this dress were absolutely insane. And of course, you have the makeup by Pat McGrath with these sort of thin eyebrows. I think John Galliano is still living on this high from the last couture collection. So everyone is just doing up the makeup that is kind of similar to that show. Zendaya's second look is a Givenchy Spring-Summer 1996 couture gown. It's actually quite interesting. You can see this bouquet of roses on her head as this sort of headpiece, and that goes back to what I was saying about the attention to detail. Some people didn't really like Zendaya's looks, which I found kind of interesting. I mean, I definitely preferred the Margiela look to the Givenchy look. It is quite interesting, like I said, that John Galliano is referencing himself. And while I will say I think Zendaya's looks were really interesting, I think that, especially the first Margiela look, there's more that could be done, and it almost left me wanting. And of course, the second dress is really just, you know, bringing back the archives, which is also within the theme, of course, when we talk about Garden of Time. That's going back in time and going into the archives, which I thought is kind of a very obvious way of doing things. Because when I heard Garden of Time, I'm like, okay, yeah, people are going to have floral prints or they're going to go into the archives, which is kind of what happened here in both looks as well. But yeah, I think it was nice. It isn't Zendaya's best look. It is my favorite look from Zendaya. However, she definitely didn't look bad, and I think that both looks were quite interesting. Okay, this next look is by Bad Bunny, which I thought was really interesting. I think that menswear sometimes can be really boring, especially on the red carpet. People just wear really boring suits, and it's literally a snooze fest as far as menswear goes. So something I've always appreciated about Bad Bunny is Bad Bunny takes a bit more risk. He's a bit more out there with his outfits, and it's sometimes a bit hit or miss, but I do appreciate, you know, him going out on a limb and really trying to be experimental with his clothing. So Bad Bunny is wearing a custom Margiela look. The look consists of a wool jacket, and then you can see him accessorizing with black leather gloves. He's also wearing this interesting silk hat, and then of course he has a bouquet of flowers of fabric, which is very interesting, but obviously it goes back into the theme. He's also wearing these very interesting tabbies, and I love everything about the look. I love the tailoring. I love the exposed stitching, to be honest. And what I really love about it, if we're talking about the theme, I think we need to remember that this is inspired, the theme is inspired by J.G. Ballard's book, because when you think of the Count was, you know, this fancy Mozart listening person, right? So I think that this is inspired by the Count, and I think that Bad Bunny is actually made to look like the Count, kind of like this, you know, fancy guy who has this garden full of crystal flowers. On top of that, what I really wish I could see is the corset that Bad Bunny is wearing, because in interviews he was saying that he was wearing this really tight corset and he couldn't breathe at points, and it was really, really uncomfortable, but he loved it because it's part of the aesthetic. And I like that too, because John Galliano, especially in his recent collections, has had this sort of obsession with the corsetry and cinching in the waist, in the silhouettes, and doing things like that. So I like that he's not just doing that for women, he's also doing that with men. And that's why his menswear also has that. Hello.
Are you done?
No, I'm actually filming a video right now. What are your favorite Met Gala looks?
Tyler?
Yeah?
Swarovski team.
Okay.
So Swarovski team, they played on the elements.
Yep.
They were very good.
Yeah.
I know who disappointed me though.
Who?
Prada.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that.
Completely disappointed. Who else? Give me a couple of names. Zendaya, of course.
Zendaya, I don't know, Jennifer Lopez.
Nothing special. I expect that dress did not look like Schiaparelli.
I know. That's exactly what I was going to say in my review. It's so, like, Schiaparelli is about dreaming, right? It's about taking you into a different world. That did not. I think that Balmain took you more into a world than the Schiaparelli dress did, which is crazy to say.
The Schiaparelli was, it gave me Ellie sob,
Yeah.
honestly. And I don't mean that as a negative.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you
I
mean.
think that, like, if I saw that and I did not know that it's Scap, I would be like, my God, she's again wearing Ellie sob, and it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Because of it. It's a beautiful dress, but it doesn't.
There's no surrealism. There's no,
Yeah,
yeah, I know what you
at
mean.
all. Other than that, who else? Kim was good.
Yep.
Nothing special.
Yep.
I did not expect so many Margiela looks, to be honest.
I know, it was like the John Galliano Met Gala. What was going on there?
She said, "You're not gonna give me the Met Gala for John Galliano. I'll just make sure that like everybody wears John Galliano." I swear, it really was like that. Cardi B was okay.
Yep.
Nothing wow. Who else? Who are other people? Nicole Kidman.
Yep.
Nice. I'm tired of them. I mean, like, isn't it funny that like all the best dresses that we talk about Balenciaga are the ones that come from the archive? I mean, that says something.
I mean, there's so many names we could go through. What did you think of Chris Hemsworth?
Oh, him and his wife. I'm like, the zero
Rita Ora.
awful.
I'm just being a contrarian. What did you think of Ayo Adebiri?
Such a disappointment.
Really? Yeah, because I feel like she's almost steering on becoming like a bit of a fashion icon. She's had a lot of really good looks recently.
Yeah, that's her first Smith, and you put her in a floral dress?
Yeah.
Like, it's too, Maggie is a Mandy
Yeah.
from TikTok.
Yeah.
Or somebody else. They're like, it's too literal. It really is.
Yeah, it was way too literal, to be fair.
Right.
It was. What did you think of Lizzo's look?
Awful.
Yeah, I thought so. Harris Reed. This will be interesting. Do you know what I think? I think that it was okay. People will say that it's sensational because as a standalone thing, okay, it is quite nice.
I agree. It wasn't anything like, I mean, it was nice.
Yeah.
I cannot be an asshole. But, it was nice. But nothing like, wow.
What did you think of Emma Chamberlain?
The Gaultier one?
Yeah.
Not bad. Not bad.
It seemed a bit safe, but it was okay. It was good.
It was not bad. I'm okay with it.
We can go through so many. There's so many people.
There were so many people. I'm like, Met Gala is fun for the first hour.
Yeah, and then after it's just like, okay, now it's too many people. I can't keep up.
You can't. You really can't. It's so many people.
Yeah. What do you think of Wisdom?
I liked it.
Yeah.
I don't know how
Robert
it
Woon.
translated to the theme.
So I think the theme was more because obviously it had like the roses, right? That were decaying. So it's this idea of like, beautiful things wither away, or sometimes beautiful things get destroyed, which I think actually was really on theme, but it's obviously not as easy to just notice straight away because it looks like the normal Robert Woon sort of decaying, fraying away thing. So I think he just used that idea to sort of tie it into the theme, which I think worked.
Yeah. It wasn't a bad look.
Yeah.
Overall, it wasn't a bad look.
Yeah. So those are Hanan's thoughts. I Deserve Couture. Go and follow him on Instagram for some amazing fashion commentary and fashion news and fashion memes and everything within. So the next look I really want to talk about is Gwendolyn Christie, because she's also wearing Margiela. At this point, it almost became the sort of John Galliano Margiela Met Gala. It wasn't even the Met Gala anymore. It's kind of like he owned it with so many Margiela looks and so many John Galliano looks when they weren't Margiela, whether it's, Christian Dior or Givenchy when he was there and referencing the archives from when he was there. So she's wearing this really, really nice sort of black silk opera coat thing that's made of tulle. It's really, really nice. And she's sort of wearing it as a cape over this blood orange bias cut dress. Now, obviously, it's inspired by John Galliano's latest couture collection. I think that he's definitely, like I've said earlier, been living off the high from that haute couture collection, and we're just seeing all the remnants of it. Of course, the hair is styled a very similar way to that show. So yeah, it's a really cool look. I feel like I've half seen it before because it's so John Galliano couture collection. But it's nice and I love it. And Gwendolyn looks great. But I'm going to use that as a pivot to kind of talk about a story that I don't think too many people are talking about. And shout out to Leo from the channel who pointed this out. There's this really good article written by Chantal Fernandez in The Cut, and it really talks about the time frame recently of the Met Gala and the fact that Anna Wintour has actually been pushing for John Galliano to have his own themed Met Gala, kind of similar to last year when we had Karl Lagerfeld. But because obviously Karl Lagerfeld is a bit controversial, John Galliano is even more controversial, and they didn't want back-to-back controversial things going on, and especially themes of the Met Gala. And also, they just thought that he's too controversial at the moment and now is not the right time. And so actually, the Garden of Time was sort of like a backup theme. They were really pushing for this John Galliano theme. And it kind of makes sense. Anna Wintour really loves John Galliano. Anna Wintour is the reason why well, not the sole reason, but a big reason why he went to Givenchy, because she was sort of whispering in the ear of Bernard Arnault's ear, and she became the Bernard Arnault whisperer, as she was referred to, when she would just whisper to Bernard, and then designers would end up at the houses. So she's the reason why he was there. When the situation happened with Christian Dior and he was fired, she is one of the big reasons why he ended up having a job at Margiela. So of course, with Anna Wintour in his corner, anything is possible. And there's this massive discussion around who is going to go to Givenchy, who is the new creative director that is going to go to Givenchy and revive the brand. John Galliano, of course, has loads of history working at Givenchy. He had a really successful time there. And so a lot of people are linking him with Givenchy. Do I think he's going to go back to an LVMH brand ever? I don't really think so. But it's a really interesting story. And I think when you think of the fact that Zendaya wore an archived Givenchy piece from John Galliano, it kind of all ties into this rumor that we're hearing that John Galliano might come back to Givenchy. So the next look I'm going to talk about is Jennifer Lopez. She's wearing this really interesting Schiaparelli sort of mermaid gown. You can see this very interesting sort of like sheer tall lining in the dress. And of course, there are rhinestones embellished all over the dress. Something I find really ironic is that she was wearing, I think I read 100 carats of diamond jewelry across her jewelry pieces, which is in stark contrast to Schiaparelli, who sells brass jewelry. The jewelry wasn't Schiaparelli, by the way, but it's just funny, the contrast. Now, this look is a bit confusing, to be honest, because Schiaparelli is a brand that is about dreaming. It takes you into different worlds. It's, has themes of surrealism, themes of garment and fabric manipulation. These are themes that are really key to the house of Schiaparelli. And I almost thought that, kind of similar to when I was talking to Hanan, it's kind of strange that I thought that Tyler's Balmain look looked way more Schiaparelli than the actual Schiaparelli look that's being worn by Jennifer Lopez. There's almost no dreaming here. And even though the dress is actually really nice, it looks nice, it's really good, it's really chic, I like the way it fits, but that's kind of as far as it goes. There's nothing really interesting. And when I think of Schiaparelli, you think of a theme like Garden of Time, where there's so many ideas you can play with and dream with. You would think that Schiaparelli would, go all guns blazing into this sort of dreamy world with the clothing. So, I don't know, it's kind of like, it's a nice look by Jennifer Lopez, but I don't really understand it because it doesn't look Schiaparelli at all. And it doesn't really give off this Schiaparelli energy or vibe. So it's kind of just a nice dress, and that's kind of where it ends. With Anna Wintour, there's not really much to say. She's wearing a custom Loewe look, and what do you know? Another floral. I mean, Anna Wintour is known for wearing loads of prints. She loves designers like Dries Van Noten and all the florals and stuff. So this is something that everyone could have predicted, that there'll be some sort of, floral vibe going on. So yeah, there's not really much to say, to be honest. In this next look, Ashley Graham is wearing Ludovic de Saint-Saëns, which is very, very interesting to me, actually, because Ludovic de Saint-Saëns, for the most part, is just a designer that designs for the skinny kids that go partying in Saint-Tropez, and, you know, they have fun and they drive their Ferraris to the south of France. And that's the kind of lifestyle that Ludovic de Saint-Saëns sort of portrays through his brand. So it's very interesting to see him, you know, increase his range and design a custom piece for someone like Ashley Graham. This was actually quite impressive because I didn't know that Ludovic had this kind of range, to be honest. And it's inspired by a look from his Spring Summer 24 collection. And it's been adapted to add to the theme. Of course, you see this flower on the piece that he's added. So it's very, very interesting. It's very cool. I think more could be done to kind of work with the theme other than just have a flower on it. It's very sexy. I know it's going to be a controversial look. I know it's going to be very hit or miss. Some people might even say there's issues with the fit. Ludovic de Saint-Saëns, what he is known for is sexiness. His clothes for his eponymous label, all about sexiness. I mean, that was a massive complaint when he went to Andre Lemista. As a creative director, people were like, he made it so sexy, almost too sexy for the Andre Lemista brand. So I think it's kind of on trend, but I think more could be done, definitely, with the theme. I think it's a nice dress. It's cool to see Ludovic sort of step out of his comfort zone a bit as a designer. That being said, I think more could definitely be done with this look. This next look is also very interesting because, of course, Olivier Rousteing is wearing Balmain, of course. And he has this custom bit where it's literally just his face. It's like a mold of his face. And so why I'm just fascinated about this, once again, it brings about this question. I just really want to know how they craft these things. I definitely want to know how it's crafted. I like the power shoulders that Olivier is giving us with this look. I like the flares. It's a very cool look, but I really just want to know, Olivier needs to give us sort of the video content explaining how these things were made. So yeah, it was just kind of fascinating to see this sand textured fabric be used in a different way. This next look is a custom brown lace dress that Emma Chamberlain is wearing. It's by Jean Paul Gaultier. It's a nice dress. I really like it on Emma Chamberlain. I think it looks really nice. I like the idea behind it, where they were kind of trying to fit it into the theme. In Emma Chamberlain, she said in interviews that it's sort of this idea of a garment decaying and, you know, being one with the soil. And that's the reason why it has this sort of earthy tone. It's sort of, you know, soil-like color, which is really cool. I kind of like it. I think it's very easy kind of to do that, because I think when I think of Garden of Time as a theme, you could just boil it down to colors, like be like red, it's inspired by, you know, I don't know, roses, or yellow by daffodils and things like that. You know what I mean? It's very easy to do that. I think that more could definitely be done with this look, but I do like the way it looks on Emma Chamberlain. I think that, you know, there were definitely better looks tonight, but I like the way she followed the theme. I like the idea. I like the decaying thing. I like that. I like that. So this last look I'm going to talk about is Ben Simmons. And the reason why I actually want to talk about this look, because it's cool. It's Tom Brown. It's nice. Tom Brown stuff is always nice. But what I really wanted to talk about in a wider sense is this idea that Tom Brown, what I love about Tom Brown, especially in the Met Gala and on the red carpet, Tom Brown puts people a lot of times that they would otherwise just wear a very plain, boring suit in stuff that's slightly way more interesting, and therefore it makes for an intriguing look. Like Ben Simmons is not someone that, I don't know, is like a fashion icon per se. And I like also that he's carrying this briefcase with a clock that goes into the time side of the theme. I think a lot of people focus on the garden side, but not so much the time, and people forget that the theme is the Garden of Time. It's kind of, you can do both, not just the gardens and a floral print. So that was also an interesting touch. But I think that Tom Brown has a way of pushing menswear into a more interesting space and pushes menswear to be more experimental and, you know, the people that wear these clothes. So I really, really appreciate that. So yeah, those are my thoughts on a few looks. If you want me to do a part 2 or a part 3, let me know in the comments down below and I'll get one done, because there are so many more looks to go through. It's literally an endless list. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Comment down below your favorite looks from the Met Gala. My favorite look was definitely Tyler's look, the Balmain look. I think that was the look of the Met Gala. But obviously fashion is subjective, and therefore if you have a differing opinion, that's completely fine. So let me know, and I'll be back with another video very soon. This YouTube channel runs on your support. If you want to support the channel, you can subscribe to my Patreon. You'll gain access to exclusive content that includes everything from my Patreon podcast, where I give a behind the scenes insight into the fashion industry, as well as a fashion book club where I review my favorite fashion books. You can also check out my fashion ebook, which highlights the best fashion journalists to follow, definitions of common fashion terminology, and how to determine what a good source of fashion information is. The links to everything are in the description below.